Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer. For this video, we're going to be doing a Duchess build guide. Her passive ability allows her to sidestep, much like in Bloodborne. Restage allows you to redo the last 2 seconds of damage. It's incredibly OP. And Finale is awesome. It allows you to be invisible, and you can pick up your allies. For this guide, we're going to go over a lot of different things. How to run her as a dagger build up a lot of status effects. She's incredibly quick. She's probably one of, if not my favorite character to play as. And I really hope you enjoyed this guide as we jump in. Talk about restage first. So the way it works is you get the last 2 seconds of damage with her main ability. It's one of the most, if not the most, overpowered ability in the entire game. It's really ridiculous. When your teammates or you do a lot of damage to a boss, you can restage the last 2 seconds to allow the boss to take even more damage. You could stack literally thousands of damage this way, and it's incredible. It's probably the best ability in the game, and I recommend using this as much as possible. We're going to talk about relics later. There's a way to actually get this twice and at random as well. It's pretty awesome. But let's talk about mobalytics real quick. Hey, it's Matt on camera, your average gamer, and we're going to be partnering with mobalytics for this video. This is an awesome website that can help you master your favorite games, including Elden Ring, Nightreign. They have all 8 classes covered, a ton of information on there. They've been updating their website post-release. It's been really cool. We're actually going to be using some of that information for this video today. We're going to actually build around the Duchess class thanks to mobalytics, and we're going to make the best build possible, going over her regular ability, her ultimate ability, everything you need to know thanks to mobalytics. Let's jump right in. Of course, we used mobalytics guide to create a awesome status effect build. They got a lot of information on there. We're going to jump in and talk about status effects and daggers. Now, with daggers, you can build up them very fast. For this, we went with Frost and Bleed. Frost and Bleed is a great combination, by the way. I'm going to mention this later in the video, but you can actually put Poison Mist on your starting dagger, and then when you use Poison Mist, you can end up with Poison and then either Frost, Bleed, or Rot, depending on what you have in terms of relics. It's incredibly overpowered. As you can see here, we're fighting the Centipede Demon. We're able to do a lot of damage, build up some Frost, Bleed, etc. Whatever you're able to do to the bosses in terms of status effects, and building up a lot of damage and making sure that you hit her ability as often as possible. Basically, as soon as it's ready, if you and your teammates are stacking up a ton of damage, you're going to then use that ability to increase your damage even more. It's going to replay the last 2 seconds, and the boss will take that damage. It's really excellent for when bleed procs, frost procs, etc. happen, which, of course, as Duchess, you're going to be causing a lot to the bosses you face. And of course, when we go over relics later, we'll talk about what you want to use to build around that to make her even more powerful. There's actually going to be 2 different builds in this video. At the end of the video, I'm going to then do a build of my own. For the first one, we kind of use the guide that mobalytics has, and it's absolutely awesome. There's a lot of information on there. As far as later in the video, we have a guide also for a really fun one if you have the final boss relic, or if you just like running affinity builds and want to try something different. At the end of this video, there will be one for that, and it's going to be a lot of fun too. So we got a really powerful build, a really fun build guide for you. Yeah, I can't wait to jump into both of these. Of course, for the first one, we're going to have a ton of relic options for you to build around her and make her incredibly powerful. Her remembrances are quite good as well. I recommend doing the remembrance quests. They're incredibly long, though. They do take a little bit of time for each of us to get them all done. Now, after this clip, we're going to show off a little bit in terms of her HP and how you have to be extra careful, which is something that I am not always when I play these games. Of course, I kind of run in kind of not the most intelligent thing to do all the time, especially when you're playing as the Duchess class, because she does take a lot of damage, and she doesn't have a lot of HP either. She really excels in a lot of other things other than HP. And of course, you know, the ability to take damage. She's not like the Guardian class, Raider class, etc., where you can just tank hits. So we're going to show that off here. High DPS, but you've got to be careful. Of course, for this, we're running Poison, Frost, and Bleed. It's a pretty awesome combination here. I love being able to do that with Poison Mist. Once you activate the Ash of War Poison Mist, you then have the ability to do Poison and Frost. Now, of course, I ran in there, and in a lot of cases, especially when you're in the Rot Zone, that's really rough on Duchess specifically, you're going to be one hit from most bosses a lot of the time. Depending on what you pick up in terms of physical defense before then, you're going to be one hit very often if you're not super careful. Of course, she has the ability to go invisible with her ultimate, and that can be helpful. Her ultimate does take a little bit in terms of the cooldown, though. It takes a while. So the whole concept with her is going to be being really careful, running up, trying to get those status effects, trying not to get hit like I did there, and then backing off, and then using her ability to restage the last 2 seconds when your allies are hitting the boss. Now, if you have a tank character on your team, it makes playing as Duchess so much easier. If your team is running, if the composition of your team ends up being 3 complete glass cannons, you're going to have a hard time. Depending on boss, it's going to be a long run, typically, because if you get hit, you're probably going to be one hit by a lot of the harder hitting bosses. The Tree Avatar, the Tree Sentinel, the Draconic Tree Sentinel, most of the Night Lords can pretty much one hit you, and that's why I ended up going down twice here. Luckily, my teammates were really good and got me up. Shout out to all my teammates in this video. I think a lot of these were with random players. It's been awesome playing this too. But yeah, you want to be super careful as her. If you're playing her overly aggressive and you're getting down too often, keep in mind your team has to run back and constantly get you up over and over again. If they have to get you up here and there, that's fine, but not too much. You know, you don't want to go down too much. Now, we used our ultimate ability there to get up our ally. We'll go invisible. There's different things you could do, too, in terms of relics to increase her damage while using the ultimate and reduce that cooldown as well. It's something you can definitely add to the relics. As we go over them, there's a lot of great options for you guys and a very specific build at the end, too. We're going to show off a clip here soon, very soon, for Gaping Jaw. I'm going to go over some tips for Gaping Jaw as well, because I think a lot of people are still having a hard time with them. When I rank the bosses, a couple people mentioned that he's very difficult for some, but if you use Frost and Poison and you have the right build, you can absolutely destroy Gaping Jaw. We're going to show off one more clip here with our status effect build, jump into Gaping Jaw, then the relics, and then lastly, of course, I'm going to show off the cool affinity build if you get the final boss relic. Or, of course, you'll be able to use any, really any 2 different affinities on 2 daggers as you run through the game, and you will get some good rolls with that. I do find that finding daggers is a little bit of a problem for a Duchess sometimes. Of course, the more bosses you defeat, the better chance that you will find a good dagger. The Bloodstained dagger is excellent. But yeah, it is difficult at certain times, especially early in the run, to find the right dagger to run with your main one. All right, now we're going to talk about shredding bosses, a little bit of tips for Gaping Jaw, and how to run a Frost and Poison build against him. Maybe it's Gaping Jaw's ability to pretty much grab your teammates that's bothering you. If that's the case, you can use Poison against him, and it'll actually drop your teammate before killing them, which is awesome, or downing them, rather. So that's a really good thing to know. If you didn't know that, you can use Poison to stop him in his tracks multiple times throughout this fight. We were able to poison him there. And when he throws up that gunk, that's actually him shedding off the poison. So you can poison him again after he sheds off the poison and stun him again. It's very good to do this while he bites somebody if he happens to grab one of your teammates, because you can completely stop them from being down. This is a really good tip. I learned that a little bit later on, and can help immensely with this fight because you don't have to worry about getting up a teammate if you have a poison build running on your character. Now, for this, I did get bitten by him and eaten a little bit, but my teammates helped, jumped in, and were able to use the ult there. I believe Raider used his ult. I was able to get out of the bite, and I stayed alive. That's important there, so nobody down yet. And we're continuing to go back to him, build up as much frost and bleed as we possibly can. Yeah, this is going to be a tough fight for a lot of players if you're not running at least one character that has poison. Here again, we're going to use Poison Mist. I believe he bit our ally here, and once he gets poisoned, he will drop them and usually do about half their HP. There's a Frost proc. We were going for that as well. Of course, that's going to be excellent for him too. Now, Frost actually slows down this boss. There's going to be some frame drops here, by the way. This was, funny enough, recorded a day after they supposedly patched the frame drops. Now, it doesn't freeze anymore. I run a 4070, so it's a pretty average PC. It's all right. And it still frame drops at times in this fight post that patch. This was actually after the patch, and I still had some frame dips, but that's a story for another day. Hopefully they get that a little bit better under control in the future. However, I think there's just too much going on in this boss fight for a lot of PCs. Anyways, in Phase 2, you could slow him down significantly with Frost, make it a lot easier that way. And if you're running Duchess, you want to continue to just stack the successive attack damage that you can on his legs. You're going to have to watch out for those stomps, though. They do a lot of damage, as you could see there. Now, for this particular run, if I remember correctly, I was able to get some physical damage, like resistance, as well as using, I believe, Boiled Crab, too. So that's really helpful as well to run as Duchess, because she can, again, be one hit by a lot of the Night Lords, so you have to be really careful careful with that. As you can see, the frost on him, it's going to slow him down just a little bit. And of course, we're going to continue to try to get poison build up on him. If he stands still, that's a great time to use the Poison Mist Ash of War, because he'll just stand in it and stay poisoned. And it's absolutely awesome to be able to do that, because then his HP will continue to tick down from there, even as he's running around. I noticed that in a lot of From Software games too, when you get to the end of these fights, they tend to just spam everything. It feels a little bit cheap at times. I don't want to complain about it though, because I love their bosses, and honestly, I think the Night Lords are pretty fantastic overall. But still, at the end, it's like they're going to use every move possible to try to make sure that you fail, and it just feels like that. Like, I remember Elden Beast was kind of the same thing. It's like when he gets down to just a little bit of HP, you got Elden Stars, and then he'll just start to spam every holy attack. It feels like the Night Lords kind of do this too. Maybe it's just the adrenaline rush at the end, but yeah, be extra careful at the end, especially as the Duchess class. We're going to take down Gaping Jaw now, and a quick word real fast. So before we jump into build 2, I just want to thank Mobalytics again. Be sure to check out their guide. That's their status effect build guide. We ran that. It was absolutely awesome. Did a ton of damage and took down Gaping Jaw, an incredibly tough boss. We're going to jump right in now to relics. Let's get into this. And the best relics for Duchess. Remembrance or Chain Attack reprises event upon nearby enemies. I always use this. Defeating enemies while art is active improves attack power. Difficult to spot and silence footsteps after defeating enemies. Dexterity boost, arcane boost, character skill down reduction. Of course, anything that boosts blood loss, rot, poison, etc. Increase maximum HP. Flash hustle heals allies. Starting armament inflicts frost, bleed, rot, or poison. Endurance boost. Hits give you endurance back. Any boost to sorceries. If you're running her as a mage, she can be an excellent mage. Poisonous Mist Ash will allow you to have poison, plus your choice of status effect, anything boosting daggers, excessive attacks, etc. If I speak too fast, so you can always just pause that. Best passives for Duchess. Any boost to successive attacks, any improved attack power at lower full HP, improved sorceries, improved charge sorceries, of course, boosting any sorceries really. Taking damage restores FP, slowly regen HP, any improvements to defense, successive attacks negate damage, any improvements to sorceries, daggers, or fast weapons. Now we're going to be jumping into build 2. Now, for build 2, I was using the Boss Affinity Relic. If you don't know what that is, the final Boss Affinity Relic, it's going to allow you, when you switch weapons, to get a random affinity on your weapon. So it'll go from holy to lightning to fire to magic, and it's kind of random which one you'll end up with. It's really fun to use. It can be an absolute blast, and I had a great time with it, so I wanted to include it in this video. Doesn't do as much damage as running pure status effects. Of course, we have the claws here, so we're able to run a little bit of bleed as well. But it is really fun to use, and I'm going to show my exact build for it at the end. If you want to run a powerful and fun affinity build, that can be a great time, because sometimes with these games, running the simple stuff is great for damage, but running the fun stuff, goofy stuff sometimes, it keeps us entertained, and for me, that boss relic is the definition of entertaining. As you can see, I'm switching weapons, and it's just switching the affinities. Now, you could run a similar build and setup as the one I'll show at the end, though, of course, if you just want to have an additional affinity on your weapon prior to starting a round, so keep that in mind. But once you beat the final boss, this is going to be great for you, especially running it as Duchess. She has a ton of fun weapons, and the increase in damage, being able to get them on both weapons. You can switch your right and then your left hand, have two different affinities, and just go for fun and a little bit of damage in the process and have a great time. We're going to show another Night Lord here in Caligo, show off this build, and then go over the exact relics for it. Also, I beat all the Night Lords. I'll leave that in the description below, but if you want to check out my ranking of the bosses, how I felt in terms of difficulty for each boss, I'll leave that in the description below. Now, for Caligo, he can be a little bit of a challenge. We're running random weapons here, just trying to have fun switching them constantly, and then, of course, each time getting in a different affinity, which is really cool. I really like that they added that to the final boss relic. It's really cool, and it's a lot of fun. Of course, we're going to be using restage again here too. The same one that also gives you the random restage on chain attacks, which is really cool. Basically, if you're continuing to hit a boss or enemy, it will replay the last 2 seconds without you having to use your ability at all. It's absolutely amazing. And I gotta say, for that one, I always use that. I mentioned you need to be using that one if you're running Duchess, because it's part of the reason why she can get incredibly high DPS, because you're getting that random one essentially, and then you can do more damage and then use your ability and then wait for the cooldown, etc., and just continue to stack sometimes thousands of damage in the process of hitting the boss. It's really cool. Keep in mind when your allies are doing chunk damage to basically restage the last 2 seconds as well. Even if you're not doing as much damage, you can restage that and get some more damage, but you're going to want to be the one in a lot of cases to really stack up that successive attack damage and power. And then of course afterwards, I got hit by that, restage the event to get that damage back, which is awesome. So you can kind of double down on the damage there. I don't think it quite does exactly double. I don't know what the percentage on it is exactly, but I do know when you chunk status effects, it's really helpful. When you get critical breaks, etc., you're going to be able to get a lot of additional damage using her ability Restage. I want to mention one thing real quick too. If you're not subbed to my channel and you're enjoying the character guides, this is our 4th one now. It's been really fun doing these. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. And also, if you want to see certain characters, specific characters, the other 4 that I didn't do, I'm going to probably do 2 for each character. It's going to be 1 main guide and then 1 more advanced one that goes for like a lot of damage and has very specific relics and whatnot. If you want to see those, or if you want to see a specific character done, be sure to comment that below so I know. I kind of poll things and go for my comments, and then I look at what people want to see, and then I use that for my next video, because I try to keep the people that sub to my channel as happy as possible and try to do them in the order that they want them done. And I was thinking Raider next, but you have something else in mind, definitely comment that. We're going to be taking Caligo down here, of course, soon, and we're able to do a lot of damage with this build. Both these builds on here are going to do an incredible amount of damage. We have the status effect one from Mobalytics, and then we have something to run for a really fun affinity build and setup that's going to give you a lot of damage as Duchess, where you can use that final boss relic. I think a lot of people, when they get that relic, they're going to have fun with it, but they're not really going to know how to build around it exactly. I think I came up with a really good build for her specifically. Now, I know the Twin Blade I'm using, not great scaling for her specifically, but she really excels with pretty much any fast weapons. Any fast weapons you pick up, she's going to excel with. Her successive attack damage can be insane, especially as she gets buffs throughout the run. So that's really what you're going to want to do for the most part, is run things like daggers, twin blades, anything fast, curved swords, etc. All that stuff that can build up successive attack damage, and of course status effects, or in our case, a lot of affinity damage. You're also going to realize as I continue to build around these characters that I'm always going to give you one that does a lot of damage as we work on these, and then I'm going to give you ones that are just pure fun too. It's really up to you what you want to use. I think if you're a better player, especially a better player than I am, I'm average at most of these games, you're going to be able to run a lot of fun builds and goofy builds and still do well. But I like to make some of the fun builds more powerful too, so that average players can use them as well. That's something I like doing on my channel. I did that a lot with regular Elden Ring. We're going to continue to do that too. And of course, we'll have the high damage stuff as options and whatnot as well too, so that you can go in and do your status effect thing or whatever you want to do and get a lot of damage, because on some runs, you're going to need that. You're going to need the excessive amount of damage that Duchess can do, her insane DPS, and it's best with status effects. It truly is. Another quick shout out to Mobalytics. Don't forget to check them out in the description. I'm going to talk about the ending here, and we're going to show off, of course, the exact relics that I used for this build that ended up being a ton of fun. Duchess is a blast. I highly recommend this character. For our first one, we have the Grand Burning Scene, and that's going to be the Dagger Chain Attack, improved attack power with 3 curved swords, and Vigor +2. After that, we have the Knight of the Lord, switching weapons, add an affinity attack, boost attack power of added affinity attack, switching weapons, boost attack power. Then we have defeating enemies while art is active, ups attack power, rune discount, improved poise, and damage negation when knocked back by damage. These are really good. I hope you enjoyed this video and guide for Duchess. I will catch you guys in the next video.